It occurred to me the other day, talking to a couple of our clients, that when we really think about what coaching is, don't all of us coach every single day? Let me give you a rough example. Coaching is an investment in another person, whether willing or unwilling to do so. Let me explain why. I was having a conference call with one of my clients, and a manager was telling me of a difficulty between two employees. And she was sharing with me of an employee who is really thinking about leaving the organization because another employee had not been very supportive, had been, quite frankly, talking behind her back, and she really wanted to know how to get the two of them to work more effectively together. And this is not an uncommon occurrence for us at our company, meaning this is the support we give our clients. But these situations come up all too often, and it hit me. Isn't that person who's not being supportive, in essence, coaching that other employee to leave the company? Now, that may not be her intent or her objective. She may not even be aware that she's actually doing that. But coaching, to a certain degree, is a type of messaging. When we invest in other people positively, typically we get a positive reaction. But if we walk around the corner and we hear two people talking about us at the water cooler, how do we really feel? Do we embrace it? Do we feel good? No, we feel negative. Then guess what we do? We go and tell other people. That's how cultures, that's how workplace relationships, to a certain extent, are born and created. So it hit me. Don't we all coach? Don't we coach our kids? Don't we coach one another? Now, we often think of coaching being feedback, and I've got to go coach this person, but to a certain degree, there's a cause and effect by the way we interact. So when we think about it, coaching is usually on one end of the spectrum or the other. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of humor here. You go home and your spouse says, "Honey, how was your day?" You don't say, "Well, it was neutral. I didn't have a feeling about one person I worked with today." No, we usually have really good days or really bad days, or, I love working with John, but I hate working with Susie. And we manically give our descriptions. And then what do? We share our feelings with our spouse or significant others, our coworkers, our friends, our associates, people inside the company, outside the company. And what we're really doing is we're losing sight of an investment. And the investment is, what if we taught employees how to invest in each other? What if we taught employees how to invest each other even when there's difficulty? What if we taught employees who are arduous to deal with how to receive feedback from their counterparts, their peers? Wouldn't we be in a better place? Now, that's not to say every culture is negative, but it presents a huge opportunity. What if we positioned our employees not only to coach one another, but to become our future leaders? Wouldn't that help succession planning? Wouldn't that help talent development and retention? So, when we think about coaching, I think about a staff meeting. And I'll share this with you. I won't share the company, but literally I was just at a client site and I was observing a meeting in action, and it wasn't really a coaching session. It was more or less a staff meeting. And everyone broke up and they went to their separate offices and separate areas of work. And I noticed three people had stayed behind and started to have a discussion about one of the employees who was participating in the meeting. And the group was unbelievably positive. And I went up to them and I said, "I have to share with you, this is really fun to watch." And I said, albeit isolated, probably trite, very minuscule in the grand scheme of things, but I really appreciate your mentality. And the three people looked at me stunned. They said, "Oh, well, thank you so much for the feedback." I said, "No, I think it's great." I said, "When you can do that," I said, "there is nothing more powerful than having your peers have your back and investing in you. Much more than ever hiring someone like me as an outsider." And they smiled and we parted ways. And I leave the office and I come around the corner and there are literally three people in between the water cooler, in between the copier, talking about how dumb the idea was that the employee had shared with the group. And I was shocked. And the funny thing was, the person they were talking about was seated only about 10 feet away. I'm not sure if he heard it or not. So what we tend to do by the way we interact with people, we coach them to react. When we communicate about one another and to one another, we're coaching them in essence of how to react. So when we think about coaching, let's take one small segment of coaching, and that's feedback. Do we teach people to seek feedback? Do we teach people how to accept feedback? How often has a boss given feedback only to have the employee who received the feedback complain about how it was given? They don't really argue with the feedback itself, they just don't like the way it was given, which means their walls are up. We haven't taught them how to accept feedback. And let's be blunt, have we really taught people how to provide feedback that is opportunistic, positive, goal-oriented, where both parties are confident in giving and accepting? Let me give you an example. Let's say Charlie here just gave a presentation and it was pretty choppy. He was nervous. He was looking down at his notes. He's not a very good speaker, but he knows as a leader, as an employee in the company, that he needs to become a really good speaker if he ever wants to have a chance at moving up in the organization, whether it's being a manager, supervisor, or what have you. But Charlie's a subject matter expert in his department, and he's been asked to give this presentation. Now, he comes up to you, and you witness the presentation. It was almost borderline uncomfortable to watch. And he asks you, how did I do? You're on the spot. Now, some people, there's probably 3 segments of people. Some would be so nervous to say, you know what, that was pretty good. Hey, good luck. I thought you did a nice job. Because they're uncomfortable being honest, and they walk away. Some people will say, well, it was pretty good, but I really felt where you could have improved is XYZ. And there are some people who just relish the opportunity to say, you know what, Charlie, that wasn't very good. And then there's everybody in between those 3 segments. But the point being, what would you do in that moment? Would your whole department be consistent? Would your organization be consistent? Would everybody know how to give that feedback and receive it? But wouldn't that, in essence, be an element of coaching? So if Charlie comes to me and I say, oh, Charlie, I got to tell you, that was awful. Aren't I coaching Charlie to never give another presentation? Versus if I sat down and said, Charlie, just so I don't make assumptions, what was the objective of your presentation? Where do you feel like you achieved the things you were trying to accomplish, and where do you think you still have an opportunity to improve? And would you like some help, by the way? That's what a good coach does. A coach who uses questions and understands the situational challenge not only insulates themselves, but invests in the other person. So let me ask you a question. Can your employees do this? Wouldn't it be great if our employees knew how to coach? And wouldn't that make it easier not only to coach them, but to also use them as resource and peer-based coaches? Let me know your thoughts. If you're interested in hearing about this program called You Coach Every Day, I'd love to share it with you. Let me know your thoughts.